Happy Epiphany.
Happy Epiphany.
I'm sure you're all so excited that it's Epiphany. Like my kids, they woke up, they said, it's Epiphany today. I have no idea what for a long time, I've had no idea what Epiphany is. Epiphany is technically the holiday that we're celebrating today in the church calendar. It is one of the three great and most ancient feast days, celebration days of the historical church. So from the very beginning of Christianity, as it started to kind of form and take identity, there was three big holidays: Christmas, Easter, and Epiphany. And so I've known this for a little while, and I've tried to avoid at all costs talking about Epiphany because I have no idea what to say about it. I struggle to see what point there is in the story. It seems almost to me like this story is famous, and so, I mean, everybody knows the three wise men thing. It seems famous to me for the same reason that Noah's Ark is famous. It's distracting. Slow down. The reason there's animals. There's animals in the story, like Noah's Ark, and there's costumes, and there's birthday presents, and there's a star, and it's, you know, basically, it's an appealing children's story, and so people like it. But I struggled, you know, what social problem does Epiphany shed light upon? What great question of existence does this story give some insight into? Is there any fresh approach for my life and my issues and the world's issues that I can gain from this story? And I've struggled to see what use there is in this story. And so while I was struggling this week to figure out what use there was, I realized I had to have a little talk with myself. You could say God had a little talk with me. And I was struck with this question. Well, John, where did you get the idea? My name's John, by the way, if you haven't met. Well, John, where did you get the idea that everything good and everything holy and everything beautiful needs to serve some specific goal? And as I kind of meditate on this idea that I was captured by the need for things to be productive and to have some clear purpose and some utility in my life or the world, the whole Magi story seemed to change. What had appeared to me to be this terrible awkwardness of this kind of mythical sounding story, the awkward lack of usefulness in it, instead of feeling odd and uncomfortable, became a thing of delight to me. This is the basic story. There's these three seers. That's one of the other terms you could call for Magi. So the term we heard today was the three wise men. The book of Matthew, where this comes from, was originally written in Greek. And the term wise men in English, in the original Greek, is magi, M-A-G-I. So these magi, they are seers, they are watchers of natural wonders. They're discerning for something special to happen. So they're in these different places around the world. Nobody knows exactly where. There's about a dozen countries today that claim that the magi are from their countries. Duking it out. It's been going on for a while. And these three people, they see some natural wonders in the sky, and they just go on this journey. And when they get there, they go, wow! And then they go home. Like nothing really happens. I mean, they avoid capture by this evil empire guy, this evil king who wants to murder folks, and there's a lot of interesting things we could go into in that part of the story. But what is the purpose? What's the meaning of these people who travel across the world to see something really amazing, something wonderful, something mysterious, go wow, and turn around and go home? Struggle to figure out what the story is about. Partially because of the way that I live my life. You know, it's the first Sunday of New Year's. Does anybody make any New Year's resolutions? Does anybody have like 15 New Year's resolutions? I do. I've got so many things I want to work on. Every part of my life, it's total overhaul time, and you know. So I even got like this punch card to the gym, and I haven't been yet, but you know, just wait. Totally jacked soon. I come up with all these ways to improve my life and to improve the world around me, and these goals and these priorities and these charts. Swapping out here. It's my wife rubbing off on me, if you know her. So I come up with all these ways to kind of improve myself in the world around me. and I miss out on the meaning of a story like this. These magi did not go on this journey in order to make progress on some self-improvement goal. They didn't go to increase the likelihood of a new policy proposal passing into law. They went because they were filled with wonder. They were filled with awe. There was something they did not fully understand, and they were attracted to it like moths to the moon. They were filled with curiosity. They let their questions become their quest. Notice how the word quest is hidden in the word questions? I never noticed that until now. The great spiritual questions are indeed quests. They are adventures. They are pilgrimages. They are journeys. Of all the things that Jesus said, the one that I've come back to the most again and again and again is this one line in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount, where he says, ask, seek, and knock. These verbs, these actions, they're not about attaining something. They are about seeking something. The Magi were seekers. So the word, a little bit of history around what these people were, there's a lot of debate around it, but you can find the term Magi in other books of the Bible and other texts at that time. It has a Persian root, and in the book of Daniel, which is in some parts Hebrew and some parts Aramaic, this is a book in the Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament. You'll find the word magi a number of times. And Daniel was this seer. He's described as a magi in this book, and he was added into the group of magi of the king in this book. At certain times, only one time as far as I could find, there's a reference to magi. It's Emperor Xerxes, and it's in the book of Daniel as well. And he says there were these magi in the room, the princes of the region. And so it's sort of like, maybe magi are princes, and that seems to be where the idea that magi were kings. Now, John Calvin, the great Protestant reformer, said that anyone who calls them kings would earn the scornful laughter of all and stand before the righteous judgment of God. So, guy takes his stuff really seriously. So yeah, I don't know, it's a tradition, it's fun, but it's debatable if they were kings or not. What they certainly probably were these people who watched the natural wonders. They watched the stars. The Magi at the time were trying to understand what was going on in the world. Not necessarily predicting the future, but trying to understand what was going on. And they do that by the stars, they do that by watching the flight of the birds. They do that by paying attention to the small things around them in the world. Now, I don't think much. I don't often contemplate these kind of ideas, magical arts or interpreting stars and signs and all that kind of stuff. It's not something I've really ever spent any time thinking about. I've actually, frankly, mostly dismissed it. But reading this story, what I noticed is the core of these people's job is to pay attention, to focus, to notice the little things in the world, especially the things in nature around us that we completely take for granted. I was watching the birds this week, actually. So I went on the back deck and saw these birds flying around, and I had my kids with me, and when I'm with my kids, I suddenly become much more of a seer than I ever am at other times, because normally I'm just trying to get something done. With the kids, you can't get anything done, or you go crazy if you try. So I just gotta surrender and be with it. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. And I saw these birds in flight, and I never would have noticed them otherwise, but they were doing these cyclone patterns and up and down, and these wild, gorgeous, it seemed like this coordinated ballet in the sky, and it was mesmerizing. And so there are these people who are so tuned in, so paying attention to something, that they allow wonder and mystery to call them out of their homes, to take a journey across the world, to see something mind-blowing, to go wow, to adore and to give presents, and to go home. It's a different way than I live my life. A couple weeks ago, I was, my kids, 2 and 4, were doing this kind of weird dance hugging thing. They were like hugging and dancing and hugging and dancing. It was amazing. It was so awesome. And so of course what I do, Okay. Hey, no, go back together. Go back. Come on, stop. No, you sit down. Hug each other. You know, come on, film this and send it to your grandmother. You know, I'm so mad now because they stopped and they wouldn't do it again, and I was so pissed off. What a horrible way to go through life. That I couldn't enjoy this beautiful, magical moment because I wanted to film it so badly, and I got angry because they didn't want to perform for me. And I just wanted to hug and to dance. There's a tragedy to the way that we turn beautiful moments into objects and projects. Yeah. And it's in our culture deep, deep down. There's a philosopher, a mystic, an activist named Simone Weil. She's French, no longer with us. But one of the things she talked about in her early philosophical career was a lot about education. She saw the education system was failing the kids of her country and the world because it was just trying to indoctrinate them with ideas instead of helping them to become curious, creative thinkers, wanderers. And so she kind of fixated on this idea of attention. And she gets really deep into the word attention and what this thing means. And she says attention is approaching something without projection, without assumption, without expectation. Just with this seriousness of curiosity and interest. So she started with this as a type of teaching methodology, and what she came to is that this was the purest form of prayer. It was approaching something you didn't understand and didn't know and you couldn't control and couldn't grasp, not with projection, assumption, and expectation, but with curiosity and interest. Or in the form of the Magi, of adoration. That's what that word really is about. It's about wonder. Now, institutional religion teaches us to do the opposite. It teaches us to approach everything through a very clear filter. The empire, the political and the economic systems that control so much of how we think and believe do the same exact thing. It tries to shape and barricade us from thinking about the entire possibility, from using our imagination. Politics of all sorts can, even left-wing politics. You know, you get real into the activist community, and there is this incredibly thick filter everything has to go through in order to be approved of. And when we have too thick of a filter and a lens, the pursuit of truth and goodness and wisdom and God is no longer honest. It becomes a process through which you can amass evidence for your agenda, whatever that agenda happens to be. There's a great teacher of prayer and contemplation and wonder named Anthony DeMello, who says, we do not fear the unknown. Everybody talks about how we're scared of the unknown. He says, people don't fear the unknown. They fear the loss of the known. You can't fear something you have no concept of. What bothers you, what's hard about change, is that you have to lose something. The security of being right, the security of knowing what you're supposed to do and who you are and what your role is in this world. And DeMello says that the great spiritual quest is to unlearn. Churches and religions and all this, it's all about learning. You have to learn. He says the real quest of the church is to unlearn. And the core of that is to listen. Not to listen to find out information that already builds up what you believe, but to listen in a way that might change you, might transform you, might unsettle you, might cause you to walk across the world to see something that you don't know what it is, and you go, wow. There's two ways of understanding the word wonder. There's a noun and a verb. You know, you can wonder, like an action, and then there's the concept of wonder. The noun of wonder is amazement. The definition is amazement of the miraculous, the glorious. It's amazement. The verb, on the other hand, to wonder, is to entertain some doubt or curiosity. And it seems like these things in most of our religious teaching is put as opposed to each other. But in the mystical, spiritual teaching, these things go perfectly together. Doubt, curiosity, interest, lack of expectation, assumption, projection, goes hand in hand with what it really means to stand in adoration and awe and wonder. I want to close by saying that this is not just a completely abstract thing. I don't want to leave and just go, okay, isn't that a curious thought? This is actually stuff that really can connect to our actual, practical, concrete lives. First, with our spirituality, with God. The Magi sought out this Christ child, and they weren't part of that religion. They weren't there. We want to come see the King of the Jews. It doesn't really make sense in the narrative. It's like a plot hole. Why were they there, and why would they want to worship? And you don't worship kings anyway. It just doesn't really make sense. But they were so attentive to the small things. They were so open to wonder, to mystery, that their spirituality led them into this profound place. And now they're on all the murals and everything in all the churches. They're an example to us of what it can be like if we begin to approach the mysteries with actual wonder. Second, with other people. I think there's nothing that deadens love, that deadens relationships, friendships, marriages, partnerships, like believing you know everything about the other person. That is like the death gong of love. When you believe that you know the other person, you know exactly what they're going to do, you know what they're going to say, and it's kind of like, I've even seen people, don't even finish, I know what you're going to say. It hardly started yet. You don't know. You have a good guess, because you spent a lot of time together, but you don't know. And if we can begin to approach the people in our lives, the people we love, the people we want to have a connection with more wonder instead of this constant projection of what they're like and how they are, then we can allow that real love and curiosity to flourish. The beginning of love is always curiosity. It's interest, it's wonder, it's mystery. We hold on to that. And finally, with ourselves, the mystery of ourselves. There's an ethicist, transgender Latina ethicist named Robin Espinosa Hernandez, who I got to meet a couple months ago. And she led me and a small group of us in this writing practice. She said the great question of Thomas Aquinas, one of the most influential theologians in history, was to say, who is God and how do I know? That was the driving question that led him to write just thousands of pages of documents in search of this great mystery. Who is God and how do I know? And what Professor Espinosa Hernandez does is she starts every morning with 10 minutes of writing, who am I and how do I know? I mean, she talks about God a lot. She's not a self-centered person, but what she's realized is that the discovery of the self can inform our approach to other people and to God and to the entire world around us. That you are a mystery. It's so easy to just begin to think of yourself as just this body that gets up in the morning and goes through routines and tries to produce something in order to be valuable. And everybody has expectations, and they know who we are, and we start to live into those expectations. And it's this vicious cycle. But if we can begin to approach ourselves with wonder, things can actually change. I was reading somebody the other day, I can't remember who, but they talked about if people, one of the great biblical analogies of the church is the body of Christ. And then one of the meanings of communion in the bread is the body of Christ. And so you are going forward to take the body of Christ, which is you, which is us, which is God. What is going on right now? That's a cool thing to kind of contemplate. When you come forward to communion, you are not only approaching the mystery of God, but the mystery of yourself. And you don't know the answer to that. You don't know fully who you are. What a wonderful thing to discover that you do not fully know who you are. I'm grateful for that anyway. I got some work to do, so I don't want to be the person that I think that I am. I want to be something more than that. And I'm grateful to know that there is mystery inside me. So this month we were talking about roots, how we can be rooted in spiritual practices, to start this year with courage and conviction and possibility, not just looking to the future, but looking to the kind of the roots and the core of our past. And I think that the practice of wonder, of mystery, of awe, of adoration is at the core of that. And so I challenge you this month, make it a resolution or call it a spiritual practice or whatever it is, to try to live a little bit more into that wonder. There's a practical thing that I've done that's helped me to do this since I moved to Seattle. The first time that I came to Seattle, I almost crashed my car when I saw Mount Rainier. I was driving across I-90, and I'd never been here. I'm from Florida, it's like, and I'm like, and I saw it, and I literally swerved on the bridge because I thought I was going to get me. It was so big. It just couldn't be real. And then I caught myself, and I just kept looking, and it was mesmerizing. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm moving here. I don't want this feeling to go away. And so I actually have made it a practice that every day that I see that mountain for the first time, I say, wow. Or I gasp. Or, occasionally I'll just kind of do it in my heart, but I almost always actually say something like, woo! Or yes, or thank you. Even if I'm just busy with these other things, it draws me back into wonder and mystery and awe. And so it can be something as simple as that can begin to help lead you into the mystery of God, each other, and yourself.
Good.
Amen.
Amen. Good.